It's like fertilizing a garden, seeds of thought. If you don't, you can always, you can't control your thoughts sometimes,
Yeah.
but you can pluck them.
Yeah.
And it's the emotions you feed and fertilize which sprout the actions.
So which of the 50 states are you actually coming to us from today?
Well, I'm in California.
Okay, rock on.
I live in Redondo Beach. I went throughout the entire United States, and
Yeah.
it's not my favorite state. California isn't. However, when I met my wife, she goes, "If you want to marry me, we're living in Southern California." I'm like, "Okay, that debate's settled." So,
You take
but
the good with the
it's
bad,
nice.
right?
Yeah.
Well, good deal. Look, you've done a whole lot in the thought leadership and development space of the importance of service. I
Mhm.
mean, and obviously it comes from a deep place, but before we kind of jump into the deep place and kind of the background, I actually want to understand at least a top level what you've discovered of how service is so important and what that does to ultimate fulfillment within somebody's heart.
Uh, that's a great question, and it's probably best summarized by a question that I was asked actually on the last keynote that I gave, and
Mhm,
they asked, it was the Department of Education for the San Joaquin Valley Department of
mhm,
Education, and the first question was, they said, "We deal with kids that are suicidal.
mm,
Do you have any advice for us?" And so in answering, my wife told me, "That was the most profound thing you've ever said." And I'm like, "Really? I didn't even know what I said." I had to like play it back, and I
Yeah.
thought about what I said, and I remember what I said. But
Mhm,
then I was asking, okay, well, why was it easy? Well, I grew up in a foster home.
mhm,
I've been talking to my foster siblings. I'm not a foster kid, but my
mhm.
parents had foster kids. I've been trying to convince kids since I was 3 years old not to kill themselves.
Yeah.
So it was a very easy conversation
Yeah.
to have. But I basically said, the key is stirring hope. And in order to stir hope, the key to stirring hope is stirring curiosity. And
Mm,
the way you stir curiosity is when you look at a person that is suicidal, don't look at them as broken.
yeah.
That's a powerful position. They are looking at life, looking death in the face and saying, "Bring it on, let's go."
Yeah.
And that's a powerful place to be. That's Bushido, the way of the warrior. The samurai said you
Yeah.
should live that way. So telling someone that is facing whatever level of hardship, no matter how significant, hey, you're there. Maybe your innocence was taken. You're betrayed. You're broken. You're at this spot. But there's a power there that no one else has.
Mhm.
That most other people don't have in their entire life until they're at their deathbed and they make amends and they figure out what's
Yeah.
true. But I was like, even though a lot of your childhood was taken from you, your innocence maybe was taken from you, you have a strength that you could have a better, stronger life because of this,
Mhm.
if you live in that strength and power that you're facing death with. So you open a new neural loop,
Yeah.
and the brain wants to close that, and it becomes curious to close that loop to see what it's done. So
Mm.
it's not just let's see another day. Hey, you can hang on, and maybe life gets
Yeah.
good
Yeah.
and probably doesn't.
Yeah.
But explore this with that relentless power that you face now, and you attach service onto it. And when you
Mhm.
attach service, there's 4 points to my keynote, and the third point is that service transforms every relationship, no matter who it is, on a
Mhm.
profoundly personal level. And it makes life good. It doesn't matter if you're family, friend,
Yeah.
foreigner, or foe,
Yeah.
someone you have beef with. They
Yeah.
see how you're like helping other people, like activates mirror neurons. You're
Yeah.
like, oh, this person isn't so bad. I probably, you're like, hey, you're cool.
It'll be okay.
Yeah. And so, I mean, when you have someone, that is homeless, they
Yeah.
serve in a homeless kitchen, they're
Yeah.
eating there, serving there, get a job, get connected in the community, and boom, people want people to succeed. But
Mhm.
the one thing that is the underpinning of every organization and institution is service.
Mhm.
So the hierarchy of what controls the world, even what both financial institutions, the hierarchy, the left brain model,
Yeah.
and also the right brain model. So it's the segue between both. So you have my hobby is functional neurology. So
Cool.
um, yeah, you have being able to switch back and forth. Service is the way you do it. So, and the way that happens, you have fight or flight.
Yeah.
You're engaged in firefight, and the way you do that is breath. So it starts with like every breath matters,
Nice.
because your inhale is
Mhm.
connected to your sympathetic nervous system.
Mm.
your fight or flight, sympathy to fear.
Yeah.
Your exhales connect to your parasympathetic nervous system. So how do you paralyze feel, get into flow state, creativity.
Yeah.
So Navy SEALs use it, but bullets are whizzing by to stay connected with their buddies and like, hey,
Yeah.
cool. But it's not a modern thing. It's like a martial arts thing,
Yeah.
and so I took martial arts as a kid, and it's basically, I was suicidal as a kid, as 11 years old.
Myself too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically my dad was jealous of me and my easy life, and he's taking care of all his kids, and he was like taking all of his rage on me. You spoiled little. I was like, this life sucks. I'm out. And anyway, and then he realized that he was doing to him what was done to me, and
Yeah.
kind of turned around. That's what my book's about. But anyway, yeah, so it's the shift and the rewiring. But service, what people don't know, which will really help them, is you have fight, flight, feed, fornicate. But there's also a fifth one that's never talked about, and that's forged friendships. And it happens when there's trauma going on, whether in family or in battle, and you serve together a common cause that gets you through it. It forges and it rewires your reptilian brain in through your limbic brain, so you can communicate almost telepathically. So like those people that go through that, you can look at them, have a smile, and boom, you know what the thought is. Why? Because your minds are wired in that way. So you can give and receive information. But that's the forged friendship. And so yeah, I had that theory, and I call it proactive mental patterning. I had that theory. My mom was a functional, was a head charge nurse in functional neurology or neurology clinic. But so like I grew up learning about this, and she was just like, "Don't believe what anyone tells you about the brain." I don't know. I'm like, "How do you know that, Mom?" She goes, "That's what all the doctors I'm working with telling me." Like, so like
We're still
everything.
just trying to figure it out. What's going on? What does this do?
Yeah. What's this? Poke it with an electrode. Oh, that happens. And now they got a better handle on it, but it's like, okay, to rewire it. And that's why I love your From Stuck to Unstoppable. Like, it's such a powerful use of words, and it's like, for me, every breath matters. So we talk about that offers choice in the moment.
Yeah.
To subjugate your mind to be in a creative flow state.
Yeah.
Then every muscle you flex matters, because your muscles, the one area that medicine has never really recognized until the last 10 years is fascia, the collagen fibril system.
Okay.
And there's three. You have the holistic system of the body. You have your capillary system, which deals with matter and emotions.
Yeah.
Your neuronal system, which deals with time and electric current, brain through the activate muscle. And then you also have your collagen fibril system. Well, the collagen fibril system is a completely different system. Like, it's like three legs of a tripod. And if you're interested in this, I mean, I have a long lecture on it. It's all the proceeds will go to International Association of Structural Integration to have the government recognize that profession. So I'm an instructor with it.
Nice.
But yeah, it's like if massage had a PhD, I teach it. So high level touch.
Yeah.
Anyway, fascia is where belief resides. And so it's the reason why, like, whether you're blind your whole life, or Olympics, you win the championship, you raise your arm, you have a victory pose. The way you hold your body back channels your thought, which back channels your emotion. So belief fascia is first. The way you hold yourself, so almost fake it till you make it, but you hold your body in a way you cultivate. So holding the victory pose in front of the mirror,
right?
Victory pose, hands in the air. Like, yes, like when you just won first place in the world, you're the first in the world. You have both hands, your fists are probably flexed, and you're just like, why? You're first in the world. Every team, touchdown, and then doing whatever dance. So it's that ultimate victory moment when you feel and express it, even if a person's never seen. It is like hardwired. And so the way we hold ourselves, that's why we know when someone's depressed, they hold ourselves in a depressed position. Repetitive stress. So it's the repetitive choices of our body. They reset every 7 to 10 years. So you can become a new person, the way the soul cells replicate. But then you have the thought that that's triggered to an emotional change. So like going through what you believe, like guarding your mind, what comes in, and even so like guarding your posture, your breath. So everything matters. Your breath, your posture matters. because it'll affect what you think.
Yeah.
And then the thoughts that you said, it's the seeds of thought. When you interact, proprioception, you interact with space.
Mhm.
That attaches to a thought, to an emotion. So like one of the things that all body workers know this, you can have an emotional release when you're getting tissue released.
Mhm.
What happens is the emotion is a chemical chain going through your body, your capillary system, which is attached to matter. It constricts around the chemical chain, and then years later it releases. And you could like laugh during massage, but maybe you were T-boned in a car,
Yeah.
and we're laughing at a joke, and it all seized up. So your body seizes up on that emotion. It's stuck in the tissue, and it causes pain, causes discomfort. But like the thoughts that you think, you can think differently. And also when you release it, the chemical chain releases and you'll feel the emotion again.
Hmm.
Very common in my profession. Weird if you're not used to my profession.
Sounds cool to me.
Yeah. I mean, it's weird because like I was the massage therapist for NBC's The Biggest Loser, American Gladiators.
Yeah.
I studied all over the world. And so like,
A good buddy of mine
I
is,
know, huh?
buddy of mine is Dan Nitro Clark. He's a good buddy of mine.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
When you meet Jedis,
Mm-hmm.
it's more like, okay, give me some Jedi moves because I know you got some stuff that I don't got.
Yeah.
But so like realizing that, so I teach a class on how to balance the pelvis through self-care,
Mm-hmm.
because it's like the most important thing that I've figured out on my own. Because usually it takes 2 to 4 months, and with this class on Beck Balance, it just takes minutes of self-care. But it's like being able to move freely, interchange the diaphragm with the pelvic floor, and like
Mm-hmm.
activate energy. It's almost like turning on a circuit breaker to your body. So like we sit too much as a culture, which throws things out of balance. And so how to rebalance that, but own that on your own.
Mm-hmm.
But then the emotions you feed balance. It's like fertilizing a garden, the seeds of thought. If you don't, you can always, you can't control your thoughts sometimes,
Yeah.
but you can pluck them.
Yeah.
And it's the emotions you feed and fertilize which sprout the actions. And it's an intentional choice, and you can slow that down with your breath. And so that was like breathing, all of these basic things of life, how important they are. So yeah, what I teach though, going to Give Beck, is I teach companies how to transform their corporate culture into a cooperative community by using service.
Mm-hmm.
So I gave away everything I owned April
Mm-hmm.
1st, 2011,
Yeah.
and went around the United States, served a family in every state in order to rewire my mind by living in a constant state of giving. Because like I was like, okay, my dad didn't teach me how to be a good man.
Mm-hmm.
Tried,
Yeah.
but like your dad gives you your connection to the outside world. I know, and if I don't overcome those struggles, but it's part of me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So every state was just destroying the mind and reforming.
Well,
So
what I thought was interesting when you were starting to travel around the world and do the small acts of kindness or small acts of service, some were small and some were larger acts of service that really meant a lot to a lot of people. Well, they all meant a lot to a lot of people. I was surprised by the fact that you were like, no service is out of touch as long as I can share it with my mom. Right. You were like, I just, there were so many different things. And then one of the cool things, I was listening to one of your other interviews that you had not too terribly long ago. And they were like, okay, North Dakota, you were like, oh yeah, I did this. North Carolina, oh yeah, I did this.
oh, I did, but I'll tell you what, I'll give you some secret stuff I did
Okay.
if you want it.
Yeah, let's do it.
Stuck from Unstoppable.
Yeah.
All right. So things that I don't really share. One thing that opened me up energetically on my trip, you brought up, so North Dakota.
Mm-hmm.
I dug holes from them. I show up and I meet this person. So the way I found people to where I was completely disconnected to, I used couchsurfing.com, because you can
Okay.
stay on people's couch for free. I had people stay on my couch and so I had a good profile, and people like trusted me. Because I was in LA, and I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, if you're from a different country, you can crash on my couch. If you're from LA, no, pay your own rent. But it developed this community, but I'd never done the experience myself, and I'd always kind of wanted to. And I'm like, okay, at least 4 of the states across the United States I'm not going to have any connection to, and I'm going to find them through this website.
Mm-hmm.
4 of the states will be former Biggest Loser contestants, because I worked on the show.
Yeah.
And so like 20 of the states were people I knew, were friends
Mm-hmm.
of mine. And then 30 of the states were complete strangers. So majority were strangers. So I wanted to have a cross section of culture, but I wanted to like literally destroy and pulverize my mind, and
Mhm.
that which was indestructible, like rewire it and create it through service. So like, who would I be? I don't know, but this ain't good. I know there's something better. But when I was there, the guy said, "Hey, dig out." He goes, "You'll do anything." And he was a mechanical engineer for John Deere.
Mhm.
And I show up and he's like, "Hollywood. You're from Hollywood."
What are you trying to say?
Yeah, I'm like, "Yeah, but I grew up on a farm." I'm like, "I had pigs and
But
chickens
he's
and
like, in
horses."
Hollywood, man, in Hollywood.
Yeah, he's like, "You're from Hollywood." He goes, "All right, I got a concrete bay window that needs to be dug out." Hands me a shovel. And it was cracked because when it was raining, water was going in his basement.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, so I go and I dig it out. Before I dig it out, I was like, well, hey, do you have a postal digger?
Mhm.
And he goes, what? I go, well, you said you have a skidder, so basically like a forklift. I was
Mhm.
like, if you want me to dig it out, it's going to take all day. But if we do a postal digger here, pop it through, you just take the chain and lift it up, and it'll only take a little bit. And he goes, that's actually a good idea. But
Hollywood.
yeah, Hollywood. But and then I was working on, and I was like, how much service can I do in the time I'm here? And I'm away.
Mhm.
Who can I serve in the family? That's it.
Yeah.
Little daughter, special needs daughter, had dystonia, muscle disorder. It's like where the wind brushes any hair on your body
Mhm.
and you cramp. And so you look at them and they're like this, and they
Mhm.
look, awkward and funny. But when you look at, you're like, oh my gosh, like the cramp that I get in my calf at night, you're getting in all of your body constantly.
Yeah.
She couldn't move, so I basically I couldn't touch her without her cramping.
Yeah.
And she was supposed to participate in the Special Olympics.
Mm.
And I'm like, "Ah, what? I wasn't trained for this."
Yeah.
I used to make fun of energy work as a therapist. It was very Western mindset.
Mhm.
And so I'm very hesitant in what I accept and very guarded, but I do understand different things. But an ex-girlfriend did pendulum work to where you weren't touching the body. And it would make, I didn't say
Yeah.
anything, but I was like, oh gosh, this is weird. But I was like, I can't touch this girl. So then I tried it, and it showed where energy wasn't coming off the body, because like
Yeah.
spirals of energy come off the body. And I basically just reached in there and barely touched it in my hand, and it released the psoas from the iliacus, which released some back pain. Come
Mhm.
up crying. The girl's crying. She's like, I'm not in pain anymore. I'm not in pain anymore. And I was like, it was like a Scooby-Doo moment, because it was like this thing I made fun of, and I followed it, and I put my finger there, and it happened, and they're all hugging and crying. And the guy basically said, hey, when you first came here, I didn't want you in my home. My wife said
Mm.
yes, and so I allowed it to happen. But I
Wow.
want to let you know you have a place under my roof and a plate at my table any day you want it, whenever you want it.
Wow.
And
Wow.
so like having that level of transformation from people that did not want you there,
Mhm.
and it was like constant, man. 50 out of 50. There's some
Yeah.
people that were like, I'm gonna pay it forward. Okay. Thanks
Well,
for telling me.
let's talk about Give Beck. How did you come up with the idea, the concept? What made you want to, take your experience and turn into a full-fledged movement?
Because of the transformation I received from the experience. I gave everything away, which kind of reset the mind.
Mhm.
And I was like, I may live in a van down by the river after this. Like because it really did in some ways drive me insane, but not an insane way where people be like, hey, I want a little taste of that. Like, what is that? Because now
Yeah.
life is amazing. It's been great ever since. Painful experience, like losing 75% of my friends, but then realizing, hey, they liked me for the person I was before, not for who I am intrinsically. So it's
Yeah.
gave space for better stuff. But basically what happened was when I was going around the country, I experienced, a hardship that happened, and I got to the Navajo Nation, biggest hardship
Mhm.
on the trouble thing that happened on the trip. And I show up in the Navajo Nation, and these people, like the Trail of Tears,
Mhm. Yeah.
and I'm like, okay, probably shouldn't complain too much, James. But because I was going through a tough time, the medicine man became friends with me,
Mhm.
and that you're usually not connected in that community. And basically, I just felt basically was like, hey, come with me. I lead ceremonies and
Yeah.
you're here. And I literally thought I was going to kill me, man, because we're going in the middle of a Navajo Nation. Like the guy that I was serving,
Mm-hmm.
this family that runs a hospital there. She's a head discharge planner. And they have a native medicine side with the hospital. So they serve the community. So like, hey, being culturally sensitive. And so this medicine man was like welcoming me, protecting
Yeah.
me in a hogan. And he was like, I basically, we talked for a second. He's like, you come with me. You have a pure heart.
This is
And
it. This is when it all ends.
yeah, well, I was there, and the guy that that's hosting me, he's like, I've been here 20 years
Mm-hmm.
and they didn't never ask me. And you're here one day, you little punk.
Yeah.
But they were excited for me. And she goes, they invite her because she's with the he's been before, but like not in that like that. But like there's a whole ceremony where you give gifts and it's a matriarchal culture. And so but we go and like everyone was like, we go in the middle of Navajo Nation, who's Whitey? and a guy was literally like, they were like, they didn't like me. And he's friends with the medicine man. And they're like, oh, nice to meet you, sir.
Yeah. My bad.
Yeah. And it was crazy because I just met him and he likes me. But fast forward a few years, I find out that they don't have electricity, running water, or coats. Now, I don't know how to solve electricity and running water. I know how to get people there to do that, but
Yeah.
coats, I get. That's an easy one. So yeah, so a bunch, like a few of my friends, handful of my friends brought a few hundred coats, teamed up with military base, March Air Force Base in Riverside, teamed up with the California National lifeguards. Some firemen gave, and just like Patagonia gave, the store down the street, just like people just gave and individuals gave. I was like, hey, empty your closets. You have coats that your kids grew out of, or maybe you got fat or skinny. Give them to me. And so, yeah, we took a few hundred, and then another company joined up with us a few years later, and we brought like a few thousand. And so they're like, hey, James, you can come. Anyone comes with you, cool. Appreciate the coats. Anyone else without you? But like, it was amazing how service transformed the entire community through one person. How that I didn't strategically do anything.
Yeah.
It was just like, oh, you need coats? Okay, bring it.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like, so if you take service and you distill it down to the most common denominator, I think it comes down to love. You are loving someone with action, not with just words or pacification. So if I'm hearing all the stories, the one commonality that I've heard through all the stories that you've shared so far is that love appears to recognize love.
Yeah.
And, if you walk in with a servant's heart and you walk in with a loving place and you're not there for selfish motivation, you're not there for prestige or fame or anything that we would as American culture really kind of go after on a regular basis. If you're not doing those things, then inevitably you are in a situation where you can actually open yourself up to then receive the very gift that you are giving. Does that sound about right?
Actually, better than I usually say it.
Well, thank you. We must be soul brothers.
Yeah, no. Well, the thing is we're speaking from the same truth. We just came at it from different angles of the mountain. So, yeah, absolutely. Everything that you said is completely true. There's a talk that I gave to the first National Mental Wellness Symposium. Talked about the 6 stages of power. So how money chases power. They say money chases love. Can one be true or one be truer? And it basically is like money chases power. So it's like boys and girls chase money. Men and women chase power.
Yeah.
But then, okay, what is greater than or equal to power? What do men and women chase? Men and women chase husbands and wives. Yeah. And they are about knowledge. You can say to do that, but if you don't know what to do, right?
Yeah. You're stuck.
And then what's greater than, so you have Schoolhouse Rocks.
Yeah.
Now knowledge equals, power. So
yeah.
But what is greater than or equal to knowledge? You can know what to do. What's greater than or equal to husbands and wives? Moms and dads.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, courage.
Yeah.
Courage, do it, like chase
Yeah.
the ball. Like, the first time your kid plays a sport and they're just standing there and like,
Yeah.
chase the soccer ball, just
Or
kick
they're,
it
they're,
in
at the,
the
or
wrong
they're,
direction.
they're at the T-ball stand.
Yeah, swing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so then what's greater than or equal to mom and dad? What beats mom and dad every time? And anyone in a family will tell you this. Brothers and sisters.
Mm.
Unconditional empathy, even when you're wrong.
Yeah.
Unconditional empathy is the person that runs alongside you with the bicycle and you're pedaling, thinking you're pedaling.
Yeah.
But what beats unconditional empathy? Love.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the grandparents. That is the person that pushes the bike and lets it go, knowing you're good and well, you're going to fall down and scrape yourself. But only by doing that are you going to pedal on your own. And that's
Yeah.
what you need to do. And that sovereignty shift from me to we, to where you are taking ownership of your decisions. That's just a physical manifestation of
Mhm.
that transformation process.
Well, it seems like the polar opposite of love is always fear,
Yeah.
which most people would not stop what they're doing, sell off everything they own, and then basically busk across the United States.
I didn't sell, I gave.
Gave, right?
Give
Well,
back.
that's even another level of overcoming fear is what I'm getting at, right?
But the thing is, the intention, it's just like if you're afraid of snakes,
Mm-hmm.
right? What
Yeah.
do you do? Cover yourself in snakes and your brain goes crazy, and then finally you just go snap, and then you're like,
They're
okay,
just
they're fine.
snakes. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So the addiction was over control.
Mm.
Okay. So I put things in place so I could not control my environment ahead. So I had to lean into that uncertainty and enjoy and savor that pain.
Yeah.
In order to switch my mind from a generational dysfunctional thought, which we're all in.
Yeah.
And as we all do this, but this is like, you would speak of it in different words. This is just the way.
Yeah, sure.
But the shift can happen. And there's two different mindsets. There is, and this, I think this is important to address because it's not really prevalent in society. Transformation, mastership, and evolution, like servantship,
Mm-hmm.
where you have save me, a moment will shift, and then a lifetime to master. So that's our transformation. Hey, just, you can do anything, but start growing. You plant the seed, then grow. It may take 10 years to get a good crop of fruit, but that's how you do it.
Yeah.
Stays consistent. But the other one is the saviorship,
Mm-hmm.
evolution saviorship.
Okay.
So to where, like, it takes a lifetime. Oh, I'm always working on it. I'm always working on it. I'm always working on it. And basically everyone that claims a religion that doesn't follow it falls into that category.
Yeah. No, I agree with that.
So, and even the verbiage, when you look at in ancient texts, they say, master, but it's not like I'm a slave, but it's like, hey, you've mastered something. I'm trying to learn here.
Yeah. More of an
And that's
apprenticeship kind of conversation.
right.
Yeah.
And so digging into that, and digging into where, okay, I do this very harsh, traumatic thing to my brain, give away everything. I have nothing to hide behind. And it basically induced a great state of shock and fight or flight. I then submersed myself into the service of humanity in the greatest adventure I can think of. One family in every state. What's going to happen? I don't know. I'm going to film it.
Dude, it's pretty incredible. I mean, it's a pretty incredible, even just idea, let alone to follow the idea through and see it through. And then I remember one of the things I heard you say on an interview, which I thought was powerful, when a little girl asked you, said, what happens if you don't get to all the states? You're like, well, I'll be dead. Which I think comes to that, so we talk a lot about being stuck. So stuck is nothing more than not making progress. That's all stuck is, right? You're stuck in your finances. You're stuck in your relationship. You're stuck in your head. You're stuck in your identity. Okay. Right. Not making progress. Becoming unstoppable is consistently making progress. When you tell somebody I'm not stopping until I'm dead, you're saying I'm relentless in this pursuit. In your particular case, one of the things I like most about it is, servanthood led to what I call mutual love and respect of everybody you came in contact with. It didn't happen right away in certain circumstances, but it did happen in almost every circumstance.
The crazy thing, the only challenges I had were the friends that I knew for a long time.
Oh, wow. Yeah, well, and that's because so
There's only a couple, but it
yeah,
wasn't even a big deal. Like one of the guys said, "Hey, one guy, like there was no big issue. It was like, hey, I got paid forward, okay." Or this other person that was just like, it was weird. Like when I went on national news, like she was
yeah.
mean to me, and then I got on national news, like, "Hey, how's it going? Hey,
Well,
friend."
apparently it's
I'm like,
working.
"Oh yeah, now that I
Yeah,
have a microphone, you're like, want to make sure that
yeah.
I ain't gonna say anything, but I could."
Well, and I think so that's what I want to kind of I want to hit this from a different angle.
Okay.
I want to hit service as it ties into love and how love then ties into worth and self-worth. What did
Mm,
it teach you about self-worth? Because I know you and I grew up in a lot of different ways, very similar, both with dysfunctional fathers who were trying to father but not fathering well because they didn't know any better, right?
right.
Which screwed up my self-worth. I know in hearing some of your other interviews, it screwed up some of your self-worth, and we both discovered a
Yeah.
better path. But how does servanthood or servants or service tie into love and then love tie into actual worth? Because I think there's so many of our listeners and viewers that are like most Americans and probably, probably most people in the world. We're all searching for this identity, but we're always searching for the identity outside of self rather than inside of self. Is that an accurate
Right.
statement? How do you see it?
Well, I think, yeah. Well, actually, you said that we're looking for stuff outside of self.
Yeah, so you tie your identity to your worth to I got a big house, I got a nice car, I got these relationships, I'm on stage, I'm on da 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 da,
Oh, okay,
so
yeah,
forth.
yeah. See, I would argue the flip side of that. That's an inside of self, meaning you are focused on me. You are
Because
not
of
focused on
motivation, because it's
me.
motivating. Yeah.
Yeah. So the me is the motivation and not the we. So the flip from a youthful mindset is from me to we.
Yeah.
So you have the reptilian brain. Now the me mindset, the two elements of power there, you have stewardship
Mhm.
and discretion.
Yeah.
So that is a way that the reptilian brain actually helps you survive and not just say the wrong thing that someone can leverage against you.
Yeah.
So there is a survival, but there's like you're talking reptilian brain, uh, right and left neocortex,
Mhm.
how the internal, external,
Mhm.
and then also the limbic brain, how it kind of brings things together. But service, I'm going to go and reverse the order. Your self-worth, if you feel worthless, growing up, my dad always told me I was a worthless piece of.
Yeah.
And words, I mean, spelling,
Yeah.
literally cast a spell.
Yeah.
And they anchor the left brain into a hierarchical mindset that controls a narrative.
Mhm.
So, and the crazy thing, what people don't realize is that when you say those words, your mirroring neurons also activate. And part of whatever you say about other people also goes to you. Rubber
Mm.
like glue, it bounces off
Yeah,
me,
yeah,
sticks
yeah.
to you. Part of
Yeah.
that is also true, but also the sticks and stones may break our bones. That's not true because
Yeah.
the words imprint on the other, but it's negative both ways.
So it's almost
So
like a tacky projection.
yeah.
Okay.
So, you are, that happens, you hear this, especially from, your father
Yeah.
or mother, internal, external,
Mhm.
different components of being. But yeah, I thought I was worthless. In fact, when I was in college, freshman year of college, I did not think a woman could ever find me attractive. And when one hit on me, yeah, because I
Wow.
never dated anyone.
Yeah.
I mean, but I was like, but someone like kind of came up to me like, "Hey, I'm interested in you." I was like, I thought they were mocking me. And I hurt her feelings. I was like the jerk, and I like literally thought just what
You're
she
like,
was.
"No, I'm just insecure."
Yeah, I'm like, I'm really, oh, and I'm like totally blow it with this totally hot chick, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I didn't even know.
Yeah.
And anyway, self-worth. But what happens when you serve, it's the highest form of every religion.
Yeah.
Yogis, Christians, like it's service.
Well, it's because it requires choice, and choice is not subconscious.
And you have to subjugate yourself and ask someone else, how can I help you? What do you need? Okay, I'll do that. And I won't think. Why? Because I have no idea what you're coming from. And I'll just do what you say
Yeah.
and hope it's the best. And you give time with detachment from time. It all
Mhm.
starts with being detached from your time. And you give like, but also you have to have a boundary on time. That's why I said 3 days. Some people are like, this is awesome. stay forever. Involuntary servitude. I'm like,
Sorry, I'm
different.
like the guy in Kung Fu. I have to keep moving from city to city.
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes. But it's pebble in the pond,
that's
not
right.
boulder staying there.
Yeah.
Anyway, having your worth, when you serve someone else, you turn off your mind, you give them the best. You don't know how it's going to react. So to pay it forward, all the different services that I did, like, okay, I served a lady in Ohio, took her kids fishing. Well,
Mhm.
her husband took his life, was from Afghanistan, a soldier that came home. And I took her kids fishing, and that touched her because he promised them a fishing trip before he took his life, and he
Yeah.
jumped into a trash compactor. And one of the boys was like 13 years old.
Mm.
So, in fact, when the San Joaquin Valley of Department of Education was like, "What do you say to kids that how can you help us?" And I
Mhm.
told them how to do that process. I was thinking,
Yeah.
"Oh, it's what I did with Eli,
Yeah.
Melissa's son. After I took him fishing, served them. The family fell in love. Why? Because it was cool. I didn't take anything. I stood in the place of the husband as a man and a father figure to give honor, to tell that boy that he was worthy of a man's time. He is priceless,
Mhm.
and took away the sting of that psychological hook that act his father put in him. Because there's all these psychological hooks, and that's the reason
Yeah.
why I like your stuck to unstoppable, because it's like stuck is to goad, incite, prick, puncture.
Yeah.
The Avestan language, the origination of language is an arrow. So it's an arrow that pierces you and
Mhm.
keeps you there on the spot. In Russian, it's like to quilt, the stagati. So like our minds keep ourselves stuck,
Mhm.
but the words transform the brains as spell. So like when unstoppable, there's in and un, but one is a variation, but un is like the opposite. It's not
Yes. It's the polar opposite.
it's not infamous and unfamous. It's
Yeah.
you're not famous, no one knows you. Not You're famous for the wrong reason. So it's like
Yeah.
it's the complete opposite, but like to stifle or stop, like you cannot stop where
Yeah.
you're at.
That's right.
So everything that you're doing, like it really wasn't bottled in okay, worth. I felt like I was worthless. Worthless and priceless are very close because there's no value attached.
Mm.
And so love, when you serve someone else, you give them time with disconnected to the value, you're showing love, no attachment, give a boundary so you're not just pouring into a vacuous black hole.
Yeah. But
And then tell them give so others give more, pay it forward, or it's an ancient Vedic principle or whatever religion you want to pick, modern or ancient, but like
Mhm.
let it go. And then you see how it grows in their life or not. Some of them do, some of them exponential, like someone
Yeah.
transforms whole communities. But it shows you that every action you take is valuable and it has
Yeah.
worth. And when you turn off your mind and plug into another person, interestingly enough, it shows your value as a human. So it will exponentially increase your value as a businessman, as a parent, and in whatever occupation, because you see where your brilliance is. Because a lot of times the judgments on yourself and those psychological hooks hold you back from what you would actually do. But
Mhm.
when you don't have a paycheck causing fear, then
Mhm.
you will say exactly what you think and feel. And that's probably exponentially more brilliant than how you've manipulated yourself through those
Yeah.
dysfunctional patterns.
Well, it also seems like service, the act of, all right, so a couple different things. First of all, the act of service seems to develop and inspire the maturity of the soul or the will, depending on if you're coming at it from an internal versus a brain area. The second thing that I pick up on that is you mature through the process because when you're actually serving, you can't be taking or receiving. It seems you can't do one. You know what I'm saying? You can't do them both at the same time. You can't selfishly be receiving if you're actively serving by choice.
Actually, if you're truly serving, you cannot stop the flow and interchange of both.
Okay.
So if I say, here's 4 hours, take it, whatever you want, man.
Yeah.
Or in my case, here's 3 days. I
Mhm.
tell people to start with 4 hours so they don't get too upset if the person they choose, because sometimes our picker's broke and we choose like our friends that we think are great and they're part of the 75% that you should shoo away. And
Yeah,
this is
yeah.
part of the sifting. But like when I was in Maine, I served this lady, hey, here's 3 days. It was the 6 degrees of separation, exploring that. person in Tennessee set me up with a person in Wisconsin, person in Wisconsin set me with a person in Maine set me up with a person in New Hampshire,
Yeah.
and on down. So I wanted to explore the concept, and it was easy because they were like, this is cool. I got friends in different states. What
Yeah.
states do you need? And so I show up and this was the coolest thing. I thought it was cool, but when I experienced it, it's like people wouldn't believe it.
Yeah.
And that's like, I'm glad I filmed it. But so I show up in Wisconsin. This lady has me serve because I wanted to serve rich, poor, middle class, young, old, Republicans, Democrats, people don't believe in voting, everything, gay, straight, undecided, religious, non-religious, everything.
Yeah.
Different, cool and different.
Yeah.
And but I showed up to this lady. She like has lobster waiting for me. It's this picturesque, amazing, but I don't even know who it was.
Mm-hmm.
And it's this amazing place that overlooks Camden, Maine, this postcard. She has me serve the opera house because her friends run it, but it's a charity and they need help. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
She has me paint her friend's mobile home. The local people that own like a 5-star top-rated hotel bring me food. And like, and have me come over like the best wine and the best food. I thought I was going to like starve and I'd shoot up the inside of my cheeks and drop down to like 165 pounds in the beginning. By this time, halfway through the journey, I'm like 199, 190. I'm like fatter than I've ever been. I'm like, holy cow, I can easily survive on service, like thrive, and fat boy, you need to go on a diet.
Yeah.
So it was just amazing how I thought, I didn't realize how it would constant service would put you in a state of flow.
Mm-hmm.
And it allows me to see further into the future. And I think that's what service does for you, is it gives you wisdom and insight into your own limitations and removes these things that are limiting your vision. Mm-hmm. So if you're in a business and you're trying to see where a project should go, a lot of times the thing that people don't realize is because they're run by money and finances, they don't honor time in the way that cycles of time should be honored. And it's just like a farmer. Like you plant a lemon tree, that lemon tree is not going to produce good lemon. Maybe some lemons in 4, 5, 6, 7 years. Yeah. But in like 20 years, it's pumping out like 150 lemons a year. 200 lemons. But like you'll plant it and like, oh, if I put all these chemicals and say the right thing and motivate and optimize it, it can shoot up, give me 100 lemons in a year. No, it's not going to. So having that like transformation, like it took me 6 months to rewire, to cut the grooves out of my brain to where I removed the PTSD from my childhood.
Yeah. Which is interesting because, I work a lot with the military.
Okay.
I go and speak and stuff like that, reset programs. I actually have to do another one tomorrow. And, one of the things that used to frustrate me. So I've had a pretty traumatic childhood, and young adulthood. Right. Sure. And if it wasn't for the small acts of service, right? So Steve Myrick, who believed in me when I didn't believe in myself, gave me a second shot that I didn't earn, right?
Right.
Act of service, act of love, act of grace. Susan Batch, you talked earlier about the story that's in your head, right? The opening the loop. I didn't realize until you said that, but she actually gave me 11 words that got me off the bridge from taking my life, which was "This too shall pass, and what comes next will be greater." And I was like, well, what's next? What's greater? And I put that together today. But when you look at that whole entire thing,
that's gold. That's gold right there, because it takes that ancient saying, "This too shall pass," and the concept of what I said, but uses a lot less words. So that's good. Well, I'm going to give you credit 3 times and then I'm taking it, buddy.
Let's do it. The crazy part is that ended up being, because I chose to believe it in the moment, it ended up being prophetic. I mean, I started the other company, my first company, when I was homeless in that circumstance, 2 weeks later out of a trash pile, and now that company has grown and been all over the place and continues to grow, thank God. And as I'm looking at everything, I'm just thinking to myself, all these different little investments. In fact, I say this all the time. The greatest purpose in life you ever have is serving the person you used to be. My entire life right now is like trying to find versions of myself, people that are stuck, frustrated, alone, isolated, empty. They don't know their worth. They don't know their identity. They don't understand how the hooks you were referring to earlier actually like literally hooked into them. And then we break up a concept like, offer value to others. There's a lot of people saying, hey, go out and offer value, extreme value. And here comes along James Beck, and he's like, Okay, offer valuing is actually service and action. And here's how service actually leads to love. Love leads to acceptance. Acceptance leads to grace. Grace leads to opportunity. Opportunity leads to profound relationships and profound awakening. You got it? I'm like, amazing, right?
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, it's just like how cool, and I'm sitting here, I'm been listening so much because so much of what you said has been my life.
Yeah.
It's been my journey. That's why I kind of I understood that, as you were describing service and the benefits that come from it and how it kind of takes shape and what it can do to another life. I care about serving other people
Mhm.
because through the journey, my soul, so to speak, has been maturing. The more I serve, the more I understand. The
Yeah.
more I serve, the more empathetic I become. The more I serve, the more sympathetic I become. The more I serve, the more I want to listen. I just think it's a really profound concept that not many people have been really putting out into the world. I'm so thankful that you're doing it.
Well, cool, man. In the beginning, I literally wondered if anyone would ever care.
Yeah.
I had a great job in Beverly Hills. I was the
Mhm.
managing partner of a post-surgical recovery facility.
Mhm.
I had about 30 nurses that worked for me. I worked with all the top plastic and orthopedic surgeons. So I was like at the top of my
Yeah.
professional game.
Mhm.
And I was, managing partner. So I had a nice place by the beach, and I was the massage therapist for The Biggest Loser at the time.
Mhm.
Um, NBC had brought me over because we worked well together for American Gladiators.
Mhm.
And so I was making more money, had more respect, company car, nice place by the beach, everything was great.
Yeah.
And I was like, you climbed
Something's
the
off.
wrong mountain. This is
Yeah, something's
empty.
off.
Like,
Yeah.
you're on call 24 hours a day, relationship sucks, fall apart from neglect, and you need, like, yeah, you're on the wrong mountain. And but like, what do you do? What
Mhm.
do you do when you realize you're at the top? That's the problem.
Yeah.
Is most people don't reach the top, but then when you reach the top, that's why people that are really famous kill themselves, because
Yeah.
they reach the top and they're like,
This is it.
really?
There's nothing more. Yeah.
Yeah. And so unless you have service to where you are reaching into the life of another, and the crazy thing is as you reach into the life of another to serve them,
Mhm.
40% of that is automatically going back. If you're doing it altruistically just to help them, you're like, hey, here's your time, do whatever you want, don't
Mhm.
think about it. Then your souls, they're reaching back into your soul and then doing 40% of, so, but yours is
Yeah.
exponential and growing,
Yeah.
and theirs is just that one deed. So as you continue service, transforming your
Yeah.
relationships, and it's like a lot.
Well,
I
I
have.
think I think what you're describing is what some people would. Dave Meltzer, for example, he was on the show not long ago, and I love the guy to death. And one of his concepts was, teaching someone how to vibrate higher at a higher
Yeah,
frequency.
absolutely.
And you just articulated that beautifully. As you serve, a resonation comes back to you, and you end up kind of growing out, right?
Yeah, I mean, the universe won't let it not happen.
Yeah,
It's literally like
it's law.
it's okay. People talk to me and act as if I'm something special. I literally just looked at all these religions and thought they all say service. What if
Mhm.
I just started with that and just did
See what
that
happens.
completely,
Yeah,
and then like threw everything else to the wind? Like
yeah,
everything in my life, it's probably wrong. I think I'm wrong about everything, and if I'm wrong about being wrong, I'll be right. So I'll be right all the time because I always think I'm wrong. So I'm like, all right, cool. Everyone was like, I'm right, I'm right. Okay, you're right, probably. I don't know. And what can I help you?
yeah, right.
Yeah, good. And at first they're like, "Ugh, give me some time." And then I'm like, oh wow, thanks. You're awesome. Thanks, you are too. What? And then you know what that's crazy is people that are religious, they're like, always want to tell you what they believe and convince you that they're right. I didn't say anything.
Mhm.
100% of the people on by the second day were like, on a second, what do you believe?
Mhm.
What do you think? Why are you doing this? Is cool.
Yeah.
And so when you just start from there, it's like all these people, all these ancient documents are calling out from antiquity saying, hey, instead of like, you have to do this. No, they're saying, you have to do this.
Yeah. If you're going to find fulfillment for sure. Well, look,
Yeah.
in the last couple minutes that we got left, I want to maybe try to break it down into 3 practical action steps because we're going to have listeners and people watching that are like, I get it. I get it. It sounds good. I'm not sure if I've got the courage yet necessarily to drop what I'm doing and go across all 50 states, but I want to do more. I want to vibrate higher. I want to give more. I want to be of service. I want to live a life of greater meaning and fulfillment. what would you say your top 3 steps to get started would be?
I would say start with 4 hours in a week, one
Okay.
chunk of time. Pick someone to
Okay.
give a chunk of time to, and alternate it. The second one is alternate it. Alternate it between the 4 F's. So put this in the notes. So family,
Mm-hmm.
friend, foreigner, and foe. You will be surprised at which is your favorite.
I'm gonna guess the foe just for fun.
Hey, it's how I got on national news Christmas morning 2011 without sending out a press release.
That's awesome. Well, check this out. So in the social media world, my team used to get on me because we would have somebody give us some hate mail in the comments for fun, and I would actually talk to them. They ended up becoming some of our biggest followers.
Yeah, yeah,
Because I took the time to care.
yeah, yeah. Well, and the thing is when they realize you're a human and you're just talking to them, because if they're mean, if they just want to repulse, and then you approach them but don't engage,
Yeah.
then they don't know what to say and they feel dumb, and then they'll just walk off and complain on their own. Because the more that someone's swinging in a ring by themselves, they look stupid.
Or they
It's
also
when you get the gloves on and like, come on, man,
Yeah,
I'm
go.
right.
Rock on. Well, dude, I've had a blast, man. Where can everybody else find more information about you and everything you got coming down the pipeline?
There's 3 places.
Okay.
So number 1, Give Beck. If you want the top 10 lessons that I learned throughout the country, I have not created them yet, but I'm going to give one out a month, and just with the footage that I have from around the country, and then the questions that I get asked as I do my Q&As after my keynote, I'm kind of, okay, maybe that we will serve people. So if you want that, go to givebeck.com. If you want to learn the physiological, the physical stuff that I touch, Beck Balance, I teach balancing the pelvis. And then if you want to book me as a speaker, awesome, go to Upside Speakers. They have some amazing
Kelly,
speakers.
my friend Kelly.
Kelly, yeah, Kelly's great. Got Trucks, got Abrams,
Yeah, they're all
Amberly Lago, got
all
some
3 of
pretty
them are
good
at my
ones.
next event. All 3 of them are coming in October.
Oh my gosh. And like, I feel so awesome just to be guilted by association. I'm like, oh, look at who I'm sitting next to, huh?
You have to tell Kelly that Steven said, "What's up?"
Yeah, I will, man. Hey, dude, thank you so much for having me on. It is a blast. It's an honor to meet with you and connect with you, and glad we're friends on Facebook and
Absolutely. Dude, we're going to keep this going. We'll have to do this again in the near future.
Okay, let me know.
Rock on.
Right,
James Beck, everybody.
All right, thanks.
Thank you. Take care. If you love that interview, go ahead and check out this next one right here.
I think we all don't realize we're already there. We keep thinking that success is something way over there we got to find, as opposed to like, what's already within me that I could share.